They say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a nice thought, something people embroider on pillows. But they don't tell you about the scars it leaves, or the ghosts of the people who weren't strong enough to stand by you when you were fighting for your life. My name is Clara. I'm 38 now. This story, the one that truly forged the woman I am today, began 10 years ago, in the sterile, hushed quiet of an oncologist's office. The words "malignant tumor" echoed in the small room, sucking all the air out, leaving me gasping. I remember the beige walls, the framed print of a generic seascape, the faint smell of antiseptic, but mostly, I remember Mark's face. My Mark. My handsome, charming, life-of-the-party boyfriend of 3 years, the man I thought I'd marry. He sat beside me, holding my hand, but his grip felt loose. His usually vibrant blue eyes were clouded, distant. "We've caught it relatively early," Dr. Ramirez was saying, her voice a calm professional drone that seemed miles away. "The prognosis with aggressive treatment is good. Chemotherapy, possibly radiation." I wasn't hearing the medical terms. I was hearing a death knell for the life I knew, the future I'd planned. I turned to Mark, desperate for reassurance, for that easy smile that always made everything okay. Instead, I saw a flicker of something I'd never seen in him before. Fear. Not for me, I realized with a chilling certainty that settled deep in my bones, but for himself, for how this would inconvenience him, tarnish his perfect, carefree existence. The drive home was silent. I was too numb to speak, too terrified. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, his jaw tight. The vibrant city outside the car window seemed to mock my internal desolation. Back in our shared apartment, the one filled with laughter and dreams just hours before, the silence stretched, becoming a suffocating entity. I finally broke it. "Mark, say something, please." My voice was a thin, reedy whisper. He wouldn't look at me. He walked to the window, staring out at the city lights, his back a rigid wall. "This is a lot, Clara," he said finally, his voice strained. "Chemo? Hair loss? Sickness? It's not what I signed up for. Not what he signed up for." The words were like a physical blow, as if my illness was a faulty product he could return. "Mark, I need you," I pleaded, tears welling. "We can fight this. Together." He finally turned, and the look on his face shattered the last vestiges of my hope. It was a mixture of pity and a chilling, profound selfishness. "I can't, Clara," he said, his voice barely audible. "I'm just not strong enough for this. I can't watch you fade. I need someone vibrant, healthy." He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, a gesture I once found endearing, now infuriatingly vain. "Not strong enough?" I choked out. "Or am I not perfect enough for you anymore? Damaged goods?" He flinched but didn't deny it. "I'm sorry," he mumbled, already moving towards the bedroom. "I'll pack a few things. I think it's best if I go." I watched, frozen in disbelief, as he pulled a suitcase from the closet, efficiently packing his designer clothes, his expensive gadgets, his life. He moved with a detached precision, as if he were merely tidying up a minor inconvenience. Within an hour, he was at the door, suitcase in hand. He paused, one hand on the doorknob. "I do wish you the best, Clara. Truly." And then he was gone. The click of the door latch echoed in the sudden, vast emptiness of the apartment. It was the sound of my life breaking in two. I sank to the floor, the cold tiles seeping into my bones, and a raw, animalistic sob tore through me. He hadn't just left me. He'd abandoned me at my lowest, most vulnerable moment. He'd chosen his comfort over my life. That night, huddled alone in our bed, the scent of his cologne still lingering on the pillows like a cruel mockery, I felt a desolation so profound, I thought it would consume me. The fight against cancer suddenly seemed like a mountain too high to climb, especially now that I had to climb it utterly alone. The betrayal was a cancer of its own, eating away at my spirit. The months that followed Mark's departure were a brutal descent into a personal hell. The physical toll of chemotherapy was relentless, the nausea that left me weak and trembling, the exhaustion that felt like drowning, the clumps of my long dark hair clogging the shower drain, a daily, tangible reminder of what I was losing. But intertwined with the physical agony was the ever-present ache of Mark's betrayal. His parting words, "I need someone vibrant, healthy," echoed in the sterile silence of hospital waiting rooms, and in the lonely darkness of my apartment. Before the diagnosis, our life had seemed idyllic, at least on the surface. Mark was a successful marketing executive, charismatic and ambitious. I was a junior architect, passionate about sustainable design. We had a wide circle of friends, enjoyed trendy restaurants, weekend getaways. Looking back, however, through the harsh lens of his abandonment, I began to see the subtle cracks I'd ignored. Mark had always prioritized appearances, his own comfort. He'd subtly steered me away from career moves that might have demanded more of my time, preferring me to be readily available for his social schedule. He'd been supportive when things were easy, when I was the smiling, agreeable partner who reflected well on him. But challenge, real adversity, that was clearly outside his skill set, or rather his willingness. My illness had shattered the illusion of the perfect life he craved, and I, in my sickness, had become an unacceptable imperfection. There were days I wanted to give up, days when the loneliness was a physical weight, pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. My few close friends rallied, offering support, bringing meals, sitting with me during chemo infusions. My family, though miles away, called daily. But the person whose presence I craved, the one who had promised to be my partner through thick and thin, was a ghost. One particularly bleak afternoon, after a grueling chemo session, I caught my reflection in a shop window. The woman staring back was a stranger, gaunt, pale, a brightly colored scarf covering her bald head. For a moment, I felt a surge of Mark's revulsion, seeing myself as he must have seen me, broken, unlovable. Then, something shifted. A tiny, defiant spark ignited in the ashes of my despair. No, I would not be defined by his cowardice, by his shallow perception of worth. If he couldn't see the strength it took to fight this battle, then he was the one who was truly weak. That moment was a turning point. I began to fight not just for survival, but for myself, for the woman I wanted to become. I poured my energy into my recovery, into rebuilding my life from the ground up. When my treatment finally ended, and I was declared in remission, the relief was immense, but it was also tinged with a steely resolve. I was a survivor, in every sense of the word. I threw myself into my career with a new ferocity. The architectural firm where I worked had been understanding, but I knew I needed more. I started freelancing, taking on small sustainable design projects. My unique perspective, forged in my own battle for well-being, resonated with clients. I designed homes that weren't just beautiful, but healing spaces. Years passed. Slowly, painstakingly, I built my own boutique architectural firm, Phoenix Designs. The name was deliberate. I had risen from the ashes of my old life, stronger, more resilient, more authentic. My firm gained recognition for its innovative, eco-conscious designs. I became a name in the industry, not through aggressive self-promotion, but through the quiet excellence of my work. I rarely thought of Mark. The pain of his betrayal had dulled, replaced by a cool indifference. He was a closed chapter, a lesson learned. I heard through the grapevine once that his career had stalled, that his charm was wearing thin in a world that increasingly valued substance over style. It barely registered. My focus was forward. I had learned that true strength wasn't about avoiding hardship, but about how you faced it. And true beauty wasn't about flawless perfection, but about the resilience etched into your soul. I was no longer the heartbroken girl Mark had abandoned. I was Clara, the architect, the survivor, the CEO of Phoenix Designs, the woman who had faced death and chosen life on her own terms. And that, I realized, was a power far greater than any Mark could ever comprehend. The faint scars from my treatment were no longer marks of shame, but badges of honor. 10 years, a full decade since Mark had walked out that door, leaving me to face my mortality alone. Phoenix Designs was thriving. We had a sleek, open-plan office in a newly renovated downtown building, a growing team of talented architects and designers, and a reputation for cutting-edge, sustainable projects that were garnering national attention. I was in a good place, a place of quiet confidence and hard-won success. One Monday morning, my HR manager, Sarah, came into my office, a stack of resumes in her hand. We were looking to hire a new senior marketing manager to spearhead our expansion into new markets. Clara, I've shortlisted the top 5 candidates for the marketing manager position, Sarah said, placing the files on my minimalist glass desk. They all look strong on paper, I've scheduled initial interviews for next week. Thanks, Sarah, I said, reaching for the files. I'll review them this afternoon. Later that day, with a cup of herbal tea steaming beside me, I began to go through the resumes. The first 3 were impressive, experienced. The 4th one, I paused. The name at the top of the page seemed to leap out at me, triggering a cascade of unwelcome memories. Mark Evans. My breath caught in my throat. It couldn't be. Could it? I scanned the resume. Previous position: Senior Marketing Executive at Omnicorp, the company he'd been with when we were together. Current status: seeking new opportunities. His qualifications, his career trajectory. It was him. There was no doubt. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Shock, first and foremost. Then a flicker of the old residual pain, quickly followed by a strange, almost detached curiosity. And then, something else. A cold, clear thought crystallizing in my mind. Mark Evans was applying for a job at my company. A job where I would be his ultimate boss. The irony was so potent it was almost suffocating. My first instinct was to toss his resume into the shredder, to pretend I'd never seen it. Why dredge up the past? Why subject myself to seeing him again? But then, a different thought took root. He didn't know. He couldn't possibly know that Clara, the founder and CEO of the rapidly ascending Phoenix Designs, was the same Clara he had abandoned a decade ago when she was bald, sick, and fighting for her life. He would see the company name, perhaps recognize it as a rising star in the architectural world, and see an opportunity for himself. He wouldn't connect it to me. A slow, calculated idea began to form. This wasn't about revenge in the traditional destructive sense. I had no desire to ruin him publicly or engage in petty theatrics. My life was too full, too successful for that. But this was an opportunity for a different kind of reckoning, a quiet, professional, and utterly devastating exposure of his character, not to the world, but to himself, and perhaps to my trusted HR manager, who would be co-interviewing. My strategy wasn't impulsive. It was born of 10 years of resilience, of understanding my own strength and his profound weakness. He had judged me unworthy when I was at my most vulnerable. Now, he was unknowingly presenting himself for my judgment, in a position of professional supplication. I buzzed Sarah. Sarah, about the marketing manager candidates. Let's definitely schedule an interview for Mark Evans. He looks interesting. Will do, Clara, she replied, oblivious to the undercurrents. The plan was simple. I would conduct the interview alongside Sarah. I would remain professional, composed. I would give him the platform to present himself, to sell his skills. And then, at the opportune moment, I would let him see me, really see me, and understand the magnitude of his past actions, not through angry accusations, but through the undeniable reality of my present success and his current need. The public aspect of this revenge wouldn't be a screaming match or a dramatic exposé. It would be the quiet, sterile environment of an interview room, with another professional present, witnessing his slow, dawning horror as he recognized the woman he had discarded, now sitting in the seat of power, calmly assessing his suitability for a role he desperately needed. He was walking into an interview. He had no idea he was walking into the final act of a drama he'd started 10 years ago, a drama where the tables had well and truly turned. The anticipation was a cold, steady hum beneath my professional demeanor. The interview was scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. I chose the main conference room, a bright, airy space with a large glass wall overlooking the city, a view that subtly spoke of Phoenix Design's success. I would be leading the interview, with Sarah, my HR manager, present to take notes and observe. Her presence was crucial for the public, yet professional nature of what I intended. I dressed with particular care that morning, a tailored charcoal gray suit, a crisp white silk blouse, my dark hair, now thick and healthy, styled in a sleek chignon. Minimal jewelry. I wanted to project an image of calm, authoritative competence. The woman Mark had known was a ghost. The woman he was about to meet was a CEO. At precisely 2 p.m., Sarah ushered him in. "Clara, this is Mark Evans. Mark, this is Clara Bellwether, our CEO." Mark strode in, hand outstretched, a confident, practiced smile plastered on his face. He looked older, of course. The charm was still there, but it seemed a little more forced, the lines around his eyes and mouth deeper. There was a faint air of desperation clinging to his expensive but slightly worn suit. "Mr. Evans, a pleasure to meet you," I said, my voice perfectly even as I shook his hand. His grip was firm, confident. His eyes scanned my face, a polite, professional assessment. There was no flicker of recognition, none at all. To him, I was just another CEO, another potential employer. The irony was a sharp, satisfying tang. For the first 20 minutes, the interview proceeded normally. I asked him about his experience, his marketing philosophies, his successes at Omnicorp. He spoke fluently, hitting all the right buzzwords, painting a picture of a dynamic, results-oriented executive. Sarah diligently took notes. I listened intently, my expression neutral, occasionally jotting down a note myself. He was good, I had to admit, polished. But there was a hollowness to his answers, a focus on self-aggrandizement rather than genuine team achievement. Then, I shifted gears. "Mr. Evans," I began, my tone still professional. "At Phoenix Designs, our company culture is built on resilience, integrity, and a deep sense of loyalty to our clients, to our projects, and to each other. Can you describe a time in your professional or even personal life where you faced a significant, unexpected challenge, one that tested your character, and how you supported those around you who might have been struggling?" His confident smile faltered, just for a fraction of a second. He cleared his throat. "A challenge," he mused, buying time. "Well, at Omnicorp, there was a major product recall, a real crisis. I led the team in damage control." He launched into a well-rehearsed anecdote, but his eyes kept flicking towards me, a new, uncertain light in them. I let him finish. Then, I leaned forward slightly. "And on a more personal level, Mr. Evans, a time when someone close to you faced a profound crisis? How did you demonstrate your support, your commitment?" His gaze locked on mine, and this time I saw it. A flicker, a tiny, almost imperceptible widening of his eyes. The confident mask was beginning to crack. He was looking at me, really looking at me, perhaps for the first time. At the woman, not just the CEO. He stammered, "Personal level? I always try to be supportive, of course." "Of course," I echoed softly. I held his gaze, my expression unchanging. The silence in the room thickened. Sarah looked from him to me, a slight frown creasing her brow, sensing a shift in the atmosphere she couldn't quite decipher. Mark's face was slowly losing color. His confident posture sagged. He was seeing it now, the shape of my face, the cadence of my voice, a shadow of the woman he had known, now overlaid with a strength, a poise he couldn't reconcile. "This firm, Phoenix Designs," I continued, my voice still calm, "was built from the ashes of a very profound personal crisis. It required immense resilience, the kind of resilience one hopes for in their closest allies." His Adam's apple bobbed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The name, Phoenix. The context, me. The recognition hit him then, full force. It was like watching a building crumble in slow motion. The blood drained from his face, leaving it a sickly gray. His eyes, wide with dawning horror, darted between me and Sarah, then back to me. The practiced smile was gone, replaced by an expression of raw, unadulterated panic. "Clara?" he whispered, his voice hoarse, disbelieving. I offered a small, cool smile. "Yes, Mark, it's been a long time." Sarah gasped softly, finally understanding. Her eyes widened as she looked from me to the shell-shocked man opposite us. Mark looked like he'd been punched. He tried to speak, but only a strangled sound emerged. He looked down at his hands, then back up at me, his face a mask of shame and terror. This wasn't just an interview anymore. This was a reckoning, in front of a witness. I had no idea," he finally managed, his voice trembling. "You've done well." "Yes," I agreed. "I have. Resilience, as I said. It's a powerful asset." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Evans. Sarah will be in touch regarding our decision." He stumbled to his feet, knocking his briefcase slightly. He mumbled a "thank you," his eyes avoiding mine, and practically fled the room. Sarah stared at me, speechless for a moment. "Clara, was that—" "Yes," I said, a wave of profound calm washing over me. "That was him. He didn't get the job, of course. The revenge wasn't in denying him employment. He'd done that to himself with his past actions and his evident lack of genuine character. The revenge was in that moment of stark public recognition, in him seeing me, whole, successful, powerful, after he'd left me for dead. In him understanding, in front of another professional, the monumental error of his judgment, the cruelty of his abandonment, and the sheer magnitude of what, and who, he had discarded. That evening, looking out at the city lights from my own office, I didn't feel triumph in the way one might expect. I felt light, liberated. The ghost of his betrayal, the one that had haunted the edges of my life for a decade, had finally, truly, been laid to rest. The best revenge wasn't seeing him fall. It was knowing, with every fiber of my being, that I had flown.